Yo, what's up, family? Shalom. Hope you guys are doing well. Yo, the other day we did a study together. We were talking about, the 7-year tribulation. You'll also hear people say, and of course, there's different versions of the Bible, and I'll always recommend that you use the KJV, family, always. But sometimes, the English Standard Version or something like that may be a little bit easier for you to understand, but you can always cross-reference the two. But eventually, once you've started reading the word a lot and you're coming accustomed to it, you can switch over to the KJV. But in the I believe it says it in the ESV. I'm pretty sure that it talks about the Gentiles. What are the times of the Gentiles? And does that mean, is that in the time frame of the 7-year tribulation? Well, in Romans 11:25, if you read that, family, it's talking about a partial hardening that has come upon Israel, and until the fullness of the Gentiles have come in. So basically what that means is some of the people of Israel have hard hearts, but this will only last until the full number of Gentiles come to Christ. Okay, well, in Luke 21:24, Jesus speaks of future events, including the destruction of Jerusalem and his return, family. He says that Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by who? By the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So, and you can see a similar phrase in Romans 11:25, family. But the Old Testament, does not contain this exact phrase, but there are references that seem to match up if you take the time to read these scriptures and to read the full context of the scripture. But Ezekiel 30 verse 3 points to a time of doom for the nations in connection with the day of the Lord. Daniel's series of visions deals with the Gentile world powers and their role in God's plan for the earth. Nebuchadnezzar's image of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. Okay, and that's in Daniel chapter 2, 31 through 45. And it represents successful Gentile kingdoms that will dominate until Christ's return, family. And establish his reign. Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts, and this is in Daniel chapter 7, family, likewise speaks of the 4 kings or nations, which will dominate for a time until Christ comes to rule forever. So their time is going to be short, and short to us may seem very long. Time is nothing compared, to what it is to us, to what it is to the Lord. Time is nothing. But the vision of the ram and the goat, that's in Daniel chapter 8. So if you take the time, family, to read Daniel 7 and 8 chapters, and it gives more detail about the Gentile rulers and the time involved in their dominion and what they're going to do. In each of these passages, the Gentiles have dominion over the whole world, including the Jewish people for a time. But God will ultimately subdue them all and establish his own kingdom once and for all. So each prophecy, culminates with a reference to Christ's kingdom. So the times, quote unquote, of these Gentile rulers would be all the years between the Babylon Empire of Nebuchadnezzar and the glorious return of Christ to establish his kingdom. We are now living in the time of the Gentiles, family. It's very obvious. I mean, that is the era of the Gentile domination. When we examine the book of Revelation, family, we find similar references to the time of the Gentile dominion ending with the return of Christ. So if you look into Revelation chapter 11, verse 2, John is indicating that Jerusalem, is going to be under a Gentile rule. Even though the temple has been restored. That's right. So the armies of the beast are destroyed by the Lord in Revelation 19:17 through 19, just before the millennial reign of Christ is initiated. So looking again, family, at Luke 21:24, we see that Jesus mentions a time in which Jerusalem is under dominion of the Gentile authority. Nebuchadnezzar's conquest of Jerusalem in 588 BC began that period, and it has continued through the present time, family. So Romans 11:25, it gives us a hint as to God's purpose in the times of the Gentiles, the spread of the gospel throughout the whole world. The organization and inventions of the pagan world powers have actually aided the evangelism of the world. You know, for example, in the first century, it was widespread to use the Greek language and the network of Roman roads that allowed many people in far-off lands to hear the gospel. Well, today, of course, we don't need all that. We got the internet. We got the internet. So that, to me, is going to spread to the four corners of the earth. So who's to say that that last Gentile has not received, or that last person has not received the gospel? Because we all know what happens. But one thing, though, in Romans 11 is that when the Jewish people reject Christ, they were temporarily cut off from the blessings of the relationship with God. And as a result, the gospel was given to the Gentiles. And this is why a lot of people don't know the history of the Jews and the Gentiles, and why a lot of the Jews do not believe that Christ is the Messiah and that Christ is God. But during this time, a lot of them are going to come to realize that he is Lord, that he is King of Kings, that he is God in the flesh. It's going to take a lot to change their minds, but it's going to start to happen more and more. And I mean, I'm already seeing a lot of them recognizing it. But as a result, the gospel was given to the Gentiles, and they gladly received it and accepted it, right? So this partial hardening of the heart for Israel doesn't, preclude individual Jews from being saved, but it prevents the nation from accepting Christ as a Messiah until his plans are finished. Yep. So when the time is right, all on God's time, God will restore the entire nation, and they will come to faith in him once again, ending the time of the Gentiles. Now check out also these scriptures, family, and I'm going to give you some Old Testament scripture and New Testament. Because, I mean, look, we all need to learn from the old and the new. Don't ever let somebody tell you that the old, no, family. Even the old, it all comes together like it's supposed to. You need all of it. So study the whole entire word. But take the time to read Isaiah 17:7 and Isaiah 62:11 and 12, and also Romans 11:25 through 26, or just read the whole chapter of Romans 11. But basically what it's telling us is that Israel, their hearts are hardened, but it will only last until that full number of Gentiles comes to Christ. I would say we're getting pretty close. I love you guys. Later.